Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of World at the Moment. If you're new here, my name is Krish. I'm currently a high school student examining different financial or health related topics that are happening around the globe. And today I want to talk about an issue regarding Medicaid. Now, for those who don't know, Medicaid is essentially an insurance program set up by our government that covers around 72 million Americans. It's for people of all ages, but if you're like low income, pregnant, or need long term care, you most likely have some of your medical care covered by Medicaid. Now, I want to talk about recently a new bill being passed by Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina that is expected to expand the reach of Medicaid. Because of this bill, one of the things that might happen is 300,000 families, that's a lot of people, 300,000 families will be able to have full coverage, meaning all of their medical costs covered by Medicaid, according to North Carolina News. And they plan on doing this in a lot of different ways. For example, Medicaid is planning on expanding or raising its income limit to around 138% of the federal income poverty line. And this has been an expansion that took almost a decade in the making. Talks around this have been happening since the Affordable Care Act was introduced in 2012. Now, obviously, this went through a lot of back and forth between different parties, both sides of the political aisle. A lot of back and forth, a lot of time has passed. But now we see that the governor saw the possibility of maybe receiving $1.4 billion in incentives. And this is all according to North Carolina Health News, by the way. And because of this, the governor actually decided that, hey, now is a good time to actually pass the bill. We can afford this kind of money, this extra money that we'll have to pull in. And now we're seeing this new bill in action. But keep in mind, I want to first address that the law, although it's been passed, we won't really see any major changes within the first, couple of months. I mean, the implementation process is expected to take 60 days, which is actually much shorter than what it used to be. Like the average kind of implementation time was 120 days, which is basically 4 months? So yeah, you won't be seeing much. I mean, you won't be seeing any changes in the next 2 to 4 months. But it is a very important change when this does occur. What this means is we'll see many more people eligible to be covered under Medicaid, eligible to have all of their medical costs covered by Medicaid. And we've seen this before, we kind of expected this, but I want to bring up a different point of just understanding where these funds are coming from. We're coming from an economy of increasing inflation. It's not really a good time right now. And the thing is, yeah, we're going to expand the reach of Medicaid, but ultimately this money, where does it come from? And it ultimately comes from our taxpayer dollars and how the federal government decides with spending their budget. And we see that this Congress passed a new spending bill that actually raised our debt limit, because remember, back in January, or was it January, February, around the first couple of months of 2023, we had a big debate around, are we going to reach a debt limit? Like, our debt ceiling, what are we going to do? And as we can see here, this was kind of raised. Congress has, enacted a new bill to allow for $30 billion of spending on budgets. And, we can see that maybe some of that money is going towards North Carolina as well. So we just have to be wary of where is this coming from. And most of it is coming from taxpayer dollars and borrowing funds. And, keep in mind that higher taxes we pay, I mean, like I said before, we're in an economy of extremely high inflation. So do you really want that, where you have to pay extra taxes? Just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying this is a good thing or bad thing. I just want to highlight the different aspects, different issues. How does it affect us? You know what I'm saying? And another thing I want to highlight is we already know that, the federal government owes money. That's why we have a debt ceiling. That's why we keep raising it. The thing is, when we enact such bills like this, we have to be wary of like, how are these funds coming from? Like I've iterated, and yes, taxes are one thing, but sometimes the federal government has to spend more than where it's getting its money is from, which is from the taxes. And so whatever deficit is there, they ultimately have to pay it back in the form of, loans. So the problem that could arise is as the federal government requires more and more and more money to actually fund these different programs, we'll see, possibly the government deficit, like the deficit between the amount that they owe and the amount that they earn. We'll see a deficit in that, and we might see it increase so much so that the government will have to borrow more money. And the reason why this could get problematic is there's a term in economics called the loanable funds graph, where we're able to really examine the relationship of interest rates and how much borrowing the federal government can do. And essentially what we see is as the federal government continues to borrow more and more and more and more and more money, eventually, the money supply, the amount of money that could be given in loans, that's very limited. And so as the government expands more and more and tries to take in more money in the form of loans, there obviously is going to be a less amount of money to go out to other people in terms of loans. And how do we mitigate this? How do we mitigate this shortage of money to give out in the form of loans? Well, what might end up happening is interest rates will go up. And what does this mean? Well, if interest rates are going to rise, then you can kind of expect you're going to see some difficulty if you, as a consumer, have to take out a loan from the bank and you see, oh wow, these interest rates are, you just got to be mindful of both sides here. Medicaid, expanding this, I think it's a great move. A lot more people deserve more accessibility to health. That's a big problem right now. Not so much as a problem in other countries, which is a bit not a good thing about the U.S. here. So I'm glad to see that we are making steps in this way by introducing a bill that expands the reach of Medicaid. But I just want to highlight that with each milestone, we have to always keep in mind, could there have been a better way? Could there have been a different way to help all these people instead of expanding the reach of Medicaid? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? How do they affect you? Do you like this bill? What new problems could be expected? What new benefits could be arise that we could have not foreseen before? By conducting this analysis with every sort of milestone or every major step we take, we'll further be able to refine these laws to improve our society for everyone here. Anyways, that's all I wanted to highlight about today. I wanted to talk about the expansion of Medicaid. Thank you so much for watching this episode of World at the Moment. If you like this episode, you can check out the rest of our episodes here on the YouTube channel World at the Moment. Again, it's like World at the Moment, the World at, and all the words are capitalized. Anyways, once again, my name is Krish Kawle. I'm currently a high school student. I like to delve in to topics of health and finance and just view things from a high school lens and see what we can learn with each step we take towards progress. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode.